Yay Networks.
Welcome to Greg Louganis is Alive. And yes, I'm alive. It's the podcast that challenges everything you think you know. And I'm joined today with my good friend and manager, Beth Zinman.
Hello, hello. I am, as always, happy to be here. So today, we actually don't have a guest. We have you and I talking about some recent travels. We both, and of course we've kind of talked about this on the side a bit and just thought it'd be like a good opportunity to kind of share some of the interesting observations that we've had along the way, and where we went. So,
yeah, I mean, when you and I went to Estonia for the Mindvalley University, that was Vishen Lakhiani and his online university. They're very mindful. And I was really impressed that, they had water spigots to fill your water bottles. They had the vendors who had these reusable containers, and they had a QR code on the containers. So you pay an extra €1 for the container. And if you get it into the correct bin, for them to reuse that, clean it, and reuse that, you are credited that €1 back. And so it was just really impressive that they were very mindful about the carbon footprint in doing an international event.
yeah.
And so I was really impressed with that.
Yeah. I mean, same here. And it's funny. It didn't hit me earlier, but while you were talking about this, well, let me back up for a minute. When you first started, saying that you realized how incredible it was that everyone seemed, really to be on the same page with the importance of, being eco-friendly, sustainability, and everything you just mentioned. My first feeling was like, yeah, that's so cool. We don't really do that in the US. We say we do, we do like get into recycling, but it's really dependent on where you are as far as how much that's either enforced or just happily gone along with.
Right.
And
right.
I was struck by, for some reason, when you were just talking, thinking of I might have been 11 or 12 years old. And I went with a friend to their families, like extended family, with their grandmother, by the way, who drove us, this is a story for another day. She was
no.
Medea. I swear.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
She was
Okay.
Medea. It was an incredible trip.
Yeah.
But anyway, while there at that time, now this is in the 70s, like late 70s, early 80s, we had glass bottles from the local store, and they said no deposit, no refund on them. Didn't understand what that meant. And I knew we had them at home too, but they weren't quite as popular. But you drank your bottle of soda, which is what was sold there, and you took the bottle back to the store for a refund. So your price included 10 cents for the glass bottle or whatever it was. And then you got that back when you took it to the store, just like what you're saying about, with our newer sustainability efforts and what is happening in Estonia. An incredible country, by the way. I really enjoyed that trip.
Yeah, that was really incredible. And then from Estonia, I came home and I went to Texas to marry. I officiated a wedding, Raquel and Jacob. And I know that Raquel works in marine biology. And so she deals with a lot of the derelict fishing, plastics that are in the ocean. And so it was very mindful of the environment and being kind to our oceans. And so there was kind of this conscience surrounding that. And then we go to Japan for the World Championship, the World Aquatic
Which is
Championship.
also a lovely country. Just going to throw that in.
Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful country. We were, treated to some really incredible meals. I love the Japanese culture because it's just so kind and safe. And it felt safe. But at the event, there are these refrigerators with these plastic bottles, one-time use bottles. Research shows that not a whole lot, even though we do try to be mindful and recycle, very little of that actually is recycled.
Yeah.
That's really, really very disturbing. But they also had these bento boxes in these plastic containers that were one-time use. And just the thought that there are sporting events that are happening globally, and concerts. I mean, anywhere where people are gathering, just the thought of all of the waste that is created at those events, it really, really struck me that we're not more mindful. We've got these world events, the World Aquatic Championships. And then when I brought that up to the president of World Aquatics, the attorney chimes in and said, well, we have to make sure that the water is safe and that it's not tampered with.
All the reasons it can't be done.
Right. And talking about the cost, shipping from China and all that. And
which is the next country across the ocean.
Right. Right.
Look, you know me, I don't hold my tongue.
Yeah. And it's just like, well, okay. So, like with Mindvalley, a lot of the vendors, a lot of the, people who are involved in getting, doing the event, a lot of it was locally resourced.
Yeah. That was,
and then going to the World Championships, it's like, more along the lines of who that contracts are given to their friends rather than resourcing, things that you might need locally.
Yeah, which is a huge part of sustainability,
Right.
Huge. Because, I mean, if it's local, then you're eliminating, having to ship it from somewhere. You're also supporting, local vendors in the local economy. Hello.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm totally with you on that. Yeah.
The goodwill that goes along with it, and also that opportunity to learn about a whole new culture. And we share our culture so often through food.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Yeah. Greg, you are a stellar world citizen. Like when we started talking about this kept coming up in my head. Greg is truly a world citizen. There is not a lot because you care about what's happening, in other places, not just, at your front door or where you are in the moment. And recognize that global organizations need to have the same care and concern as well,
Yeah. I mean, and it would be so simple, to outreach, it would give motivation for a lot of these places to host an event like the World Championships, to that they're going to benefit not only from the tourism that comes in to see the events, but also in organizing, to
Right.
resource locally that you can learn about that culture and be able to share in the experience. And so, I think that we can do so much better than what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I want to add another kind of feather in the cap of Estonia, this tiny little
Yeah.
country. And I brought this up to a friend of mine who said, well, they're a small country. It's really easy to do that. I said, well, if you can do it in a small space, you can just replicate it out, and
Right.
tweak it to fit the larger spaces, the larger countries. So I'm also going to back up a little bit into Estonia for a moment. So, you wanted to meet Vishen
Yeah.
because of the great work that he's doing with Mindvalley,
Mm-hmm.
empowering people, right? Giving people like new tools to do that and making it, super accessible and just also being a really like down to earth guy, where, he himself is that way. In going there, the first intent was for you guys to just meet somehow. So
Right.
either it would be this podcast or actually it was posed to me when I was trying to make this work out. Could you do his podcast? But that was kind of an afterthought on, oh, wait a minute. We want Greg to keynote.
Yeah, right.
So,
I was like,
yeah.
where the hell did that come from? I was like, oh my God, yeah, I'm gonna go speak.
Yeah. It was suggested
And
to me, your manager, who I don't do this all the time. Okay. Who went,
yeah.
of course, Greg would love to keynote.
Oh
But
my
hold on, let me
God.
just check with him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. But I say this because, you were one of the guests of Vision as a keynote
Mhm.
speaker. And and it's not just, people, I'll say, of your caliber as far as being notable for doing something, whether it be athletic or business or whatever it is. He has a lot of different people there. One of the things several things impressed me. One was that there are so many different people on so many different fronts. There was a finance expert. So here you have people interested in self-improvement. A lot of these people are also interested in things more in the metaphysical or even mysticism space,
Mhm.
And other people are, kind of, well, I guess it's easy to say maybe the practical things about business, if you're an entrepreneur of some sort, could kind of get lost. So I was personally impressed that
Mhm.
they had someone like that, and people talking about very practical things in business to be aware of. But in these events, so you were invited to a number of private events for the speakers.
Mhm.
And at this one event, one of the things that really blew me away, being someone that's like really aware of what they're eating and how they're eating for really specific health reasons, Vishen looked at me and said, have you tried this bread? It's amazing, this Estonian bread. I said, as a matter of fact, I have, and it is amazing. And thank you for bringing that up. What is the story with this bread? It's amazing. I don't eat bread at home because I have to be gluten-free, as you know.
Right.
I decided to try it in Europe because I'd heard so many stories about it's a different kind of flour. It's whatever's in things in the US that are not in Europe. So he tells me the bread, what's in it, a little bit about what's in it. But then he says, and it's organic. And
Mhm.
everything here has to be organic. It's mandated by the
Yeah.
government. I was
Yeah.
what? Wait, so their government mandates that they actually have to have like fresh, whole, foods that
Right.
obviously have to be locally sourced because they're organic.
That food is actually food.
It's not a list of
Because
chemicals.
Right. Because we've gotten so accustomed to, grabbing that loaf of bread and, all of these things that are highly processed, so the nutrients are, not in it anymore. And actually feeding our bodies, and also in Europe, they don't have, you can't have GMOs.
Right.
And so that they're all GMO free. I always find when I go to Europe, doesn't matter how much I eat, I feel better.
I felt fantastic.
Right?
However,
it really is noticeable, though.
Except I have one truth and confession. Okay, you're 63. You said this many times. I'm 54. Yeah. I'm 9 years younger than you.
Yeah.
I have to keep reminding myself, all right, you were an Olympian. Clearly your body's better tuned than mine. I have a challenge keeping up with you, very literally sometimes. But I felt fantastic. So even like feeling like I was pushing myself, just the food, the availability of fresh filtered water, was amazing. Just absolutely amazing. So I can't say enough good things about that country.
Yeah. I mean, it really was amazing, and that, it's locally resourced. And the thing about that as a tourist, that's the thing that I always loved about traveling, is going to a new culture and experiencing that. And the biggest way that we share our culture is through food.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a gathering and sharing. It doesn't matter where you are in the world.
You're making me miss Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Food. The food was interesting, like on both fronts for sure. Mm-hmm. I'm going to expose you right now, Greg.
Uh-oh. I'm scared.
No, don't be scared. Don't be scared.
Okay.
So
all right.
If any of you out there have ever wondered why, I'm sure you've looked at some photos of Greg or videos and thought, wow, what an unusual shirt. Or, oh, I love that color of his shorts. Or, it's very interesting, the fit. And my gosh, he looks fabulous. His clothing looks great. It's because Greg doesn't really shop at home. Greg shops when he's away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm home, I have everything I need, but like when I go to another country, like when we were in Japan, there was a Japanese designer, and there was this shop. I think it was Just Play, was the name of the shop. And I went in there, and it's like, there were so many things that I was just drawn to. Shorter sleeves, a half sleeve, just different stuff. So I knew that it was something that I wouldn't be able to find in the US. And
yeah, they definitely.
Yeah. So then that definitely was kind of something that I gravitated towards, and justified spending money and all that it's, you're not going to find this in the States.
It all looked great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, and it's fun.
The pants in Estonia, you got some pants and shorts, right? Isn't that what it was when we were in Estonia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pants and shorts and shirts and little cover, jacket types.
Yeah. Yeah. They were very cool.
This episode has been sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes you end your day and your body's exhausted, but your mind is keeps going. It has all of these questions and I shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's always great to have somebody to bounce those ideas off of, to be able to get your mind, that critic on your shoulder, to kind of quiet down and get you a little bit more focused on getting some good sleep and that restful recovery that we have in the evenings. Do you ever find that just as you're trying to fall asleep, your brain suddenly won't stop talking? Do your thoughts start racing right before bed and at other inopportune moments? It turns out one great way to make those racing thoughts go away is to talk them through. Therapy gives you a place to do that, so you can get out of that negative thought cycle and find some mental and emotional peace. I love therapy because, I have all these tools, but sometimes I have to be reminded to pull those tools out and use them. So my therapist kind of keeps me in check that I am using my tools to the best of my ability. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suitable to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Get a break from your thoughts with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/GregPod today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. HELP.com/GREGPOD.
One of the things that really struck me about the Japan trip also, you touched on this, the politeness and care that people have. And I will say too, for the listeners, it wasn't just about you, but they were very enamored with you. But without you, I received the same care, from random strangers.
Right.
So one day, you and I kind of split up and you went and watched the competitions. And I said, no, today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Wasn't feeling that. And also there's, again, that factor of me keeping up with you. I'm like, not going to slow Greg down. Let me go do something else. So I decided to visit some museums, and I realized that things were much cheaper in Japan. So I booked a car. I asked the concierge of the hotel, can you book me a car? And they said, oh, sure. And I explained what I wanted to do. And they said, yeah, just give me a few minutes. I'll reach out to the different services. And they came back and said, it's going to be 4,500 yen per hour, which amounts to $30. And now, living close to New York, I couldn't even get a ride for a block for $30.
Right.
So I said, sure, of course. And so then I started thinking, oh, am I tipping the driver? I had heard there's no tipping in Japan. So I asked someone else at the hotel, am I tipping the driver? I feel like, I always want to tip people who are providing service. I know it's a grueling job, being any kind of service person. So I asked, and the gentleman said, no. No. As a matter of fact, it might even be kind of insulting. You don't want to tip because we see service as part of the job, and we're pleased to be doing our job. We're happy to provide the service. So I said, okay.
Yeah.
But I do have a funny side story. I don't know if I told you this. I don't think I told you this. So I get they tell me they get me a driver, will arrive in 10 minutes or whatever. But the driver only speaks Japanese, no English. I'm adventurous. So I said, okay.
Yeah.
So I get in the car. I show the driver on the map where I want to go. I'm thinking that he sees the name of a museum I wanted to go to and the address. But I'm realizing, it's on my Google Maps and that's in English. And the Japanese language is very different, the lettering and everything.
Right.
So I show it to him and it's not clicking. So he's speaking into his Google Translate and he's like holding it up, so I can hear. And the words are very choppy. And it finally clicks that he wants me to talk into Google the name of the museum.
Right.
And then he's going to hit the translate button and get what he needs. So I do that. And so we were in Fukuoka. So into his phone, I say Fukuoka Art Museum. And he grabs the phone back to read it. He looks at the phone and then back at me and at the phone and then back at me again. Very skeptical. And and then I look at his phone over his shoulder. It said,
what was it? A strip club or something? Oh my God.
I mean, I kind of wish it were. It might make some sense.
Yeah.
It said Fukuoka Poop Museum. And it literally said that. I'm thinking now I'm thinking, is there a poop museum? Like, what is this?
Oh my God. Okay.
But no wonder he was looking at me like that. Like, what is this American woman into? Like, what is going on?
Oh my God.
And now I'm going, no. No. So we try again. And I eventually land at the wrong museum. So, and happily went in. Said, that's okay. I'll go in. But yeah, that was an interesting little thing that happened on our day apart.
Was it a poop museum?
It was not, thankfully, Greg.
Okay. All right.
Thankfully, it was not the suggested museum.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's one thing that I learned very early on in my travels, because the first time I went to Japan was when I was 16 after the 1976 Olympic Games. And so, I would, and at that time you get a matchbook. All of the hotels, they have their matchbook, which has their address and all that, because I couldn't read the characters. I didn't know, I couldn't tell them where I was staying. So I always had a matchbox from whatever hotel I was staying at. So I could always hand to the taxi driver and say, this is where I'm going. And so, I mean, it's just, you learn those little tricks of the trade of navigating through, foreign territories. And, the other thing, like with Japan, I mean, you could have a bike and park it somewhere and don't worry about it being stolen or anything like that. It is such a kind culture.
Oh my gosh. Incredible. There's something else I noticed. I'm a smoker, right? And so, but letting the audience know. So there's smoking pods in airports that are not American airports. I seek them out. There happened to be one at the hotel in Japan. So, I'd go there, every so often. But when we were like running around, one of the things that intrigued me was they had outdoor kind of smoking areas, like really clearly labeled with the appropriate things there. It wasn't just like a sign around the corner in a building, to kind of push you into like a back alley. It was kind of set aside. But what I found out was, because there was a good number of them, their law actually is you can't ride your bike or walk on the sidewalk with a lit cigarette, and the thing is, and this is something I'm acutely aware of as a smoker. I'm actually mindful about this. If I'm smoking and we're walking together, I want you in front of or next to me so I can drop back a bit. So I'm not intruding on your airspace, with what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
And
being mindful of where that smoke is going. And
correct. And clearly that has to be knowing what a polite society it is in Japan. That has to be what drove, I'm sure, potentially also just, not littering and providing a place, to dispose of. But when you think about it, like the walking and biking, well, you're going to have a trail behind you. So I thought that was interesting that they thought that much, about what kind of environment they wanted for, for their country. So I thought that was actually kind of cool. Like I didn't mind at all,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
I mean,
totally got it.
yeah. And it was so interesting to me to, that kindness within their culture. And then the contrast of having this world event
Yeah.
and creating a lot of waste. And, it really got me thinking, whether it's a sporting event, whether it's a concert, it's a large gathering of people. How mindful are we being? Just going to a concert or going to, a sporting event, and can we do better?
As we learned, it seems to vary where you are. But we can definitely do better here, like in the US, 100% certain.
Yeah.
Especially at large events like that.
Yeah. I mean, and even, I was the sports director of Red Bull cliff diving for a time. And a couple of the divers, Ellie and Owen, they put together Clean the Cliffs. So they go out a few days before the competition starts, and we all gather and clean plastics and, just clean various areas. And a lot of the schools would get involved and be a part of that effort. And so, we do good stuff, but I got to thinking, when we finish an event, we're all just kind of out of there. It's like, well, what do we leave behind? That's what I was questioning.
Yeah.
Because we do make this effort for the Clean the Cliffs program, but how do we leave it? And so, to be aware and mindful, and I think that with these big organizations like the World Aquatics, it would be wonderful if they kind of picked up that torch.
I'm gonna,
and
I agree with that. And so I'm debating here, do I bring this up? So when we got to our hotel in Japan, I'm going to bring it up. I'm very appreciative of that trip. And I know that our hosts had great intent, in having you at the World Aquatics Championship. You actually got to place the medals for springboard diving, for the competition, which was beautiful.
Men's 3 meter.
Or 3 meter. Yeah. Thank you.
Men's 3 meter springboard. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
It was great to run into Michael Phelps. I must say that. My last day there.
That was hysterical because I was already downstairs for breakfast. You came down, you start grabbing your stuff, and your phone and whatever else you had with you was at the table. And you're like, oh, I'll be right back. Forgot my coffee or water or whatever it was. It was literally something just that small. And I think maybe 15 minutes went by. But the beautiful thing is, I don't have to be worried about Greg at all. Like, I know he's good. But then you come back and say, well, I came back because I got to, use the ladies' room, I think, and came back. But so you saw him.
Yeah. So it was great to connect with him because, so often we'll be at an event, and it's an event. We're there for a purpose. We don't have that opportunity to actually sit down and chat with each other. And so he was there with his wife. And so we were just sharing stories, and he is really into the whole mental health aspect of a transitioning athlete, or just mental health in general. And so we got to talking about, our dark days, and, well, how did we get through that? And
transitioning from sport life to some other life, right? Just want to clarify.
Yeah, because, when you are an athlete, especially an elite athlete, you're so closely identified with that sport. Well, when you leave that sport, who are you?
Yeah.
You're left with that question. Well, who am I without diving? Who is Michael Phelps without swimming? And so it was a really interesting conversation, because his wife asked, well, what flipped the switch for you? When I was contemplating suicide and going through that difficult time, what was it that flipped the switch for you? And, and I think that anybody who has, experienced depression, have suicidal ideation, or even tried to commit suicide, we all remember that flip. It happens because I shared with them. I remember after my last suicide attempt, which was, I was heartbroken over a guy. And so that it was just so silly, ridiculous. And then I was thinking, well, rather than spend this energy on trying to off myself, why don't I try and focus on why I'm here? And so that was the flip for me.
That's interesting.
And Michael was talking about family, because he has kids now, and that is it's being there for his kids and being a dad, and his marriage, that relationship. So it's we're all so much more than what other people's perceive.
Our labels.
Yeah. I mean, people love labels. We all love labels, because then we can kind of define something. But what if something doesn't need defining? What if it just is?
I mean, that's quite a concept, because we love our labels,
Yeah.
But you and I have talked about that before. In a sense, it's really nice not to have that, not to be kind of mentally forced into a space. And also it's like you said, when you don't have that label anymore, then what? Now what?
Yeah.
That's a space I've personally thrived in, because I'm one of those weird people. It's like, I'll reinvent myself. Whatever.
Right.
Whatever the next thing is I enjoy doing, that's what we'll do.
Right. But reinventing yourself, what does that mean? What does that entail?
Another label.
And how do you know that you're on the right track, or the track that you believe you should be on?
Do you want me to answer that? I'll answer that.
No. It's just one of those questions that, it's an ongoing process. It's a journey.
Oh, it's introspective.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reason for the podcast. I mean, it's questioning all the things that we believe.
Yeah.
Right. and it just, I'm coming up with, okay, where did that belief come from?
That one question for every situation we encounter is such a useful question. Like that right there is the beginning of change in any
Right.
circumstance. Where did this come
Yeah.
from? Why do I feel this way? Or why do I have this perspective? You know?
Yeah.
And this is what I love about, oops, oh my God, I keep hitting my mic. This is what I love about you doing this podcast, is
Yeah.
that you do question things, in that
Mhm.
way, and really like to explore that. And now I'm thinking, Craig, so a future episode, maybe at least one, we need to unpack sustainability, a
Oh
little bit
yeah.
more and
Oh yeah.
that. Yeah.
I know Michael, his push is for mental health and health and wellness, mental. He did The Weight of Gold, that documentary on, I think it was HBO, along with David Budaya, which is really very powerful. Taking a look at the mental health side of elite sport.
Right.
And for me, I mean, that the sustainability thing just was glaring out at me that, maybe that is something to kind of dive into,
Ha ha. Ba-dum-bum.
ha ha ha. Yeah. Ba-dum-bum.
Mhm.
And I think that, I think that has, a lot of potential impact,
Yeah.
that we're kind to where we go, no matter if it's the Olympic Games or World Championships, Pan American Games, Commonwealth Games, that we, embrace where we are. We're able to teach these young athletes about a new culture, and as far as resourcing locally and all that, but also being able to leave for our children a better place.
Yeah, Greg, it's making me think of like having a roommate and even just leaving the kitchen nice for the next person. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's really that simple, like you said, just
yeah.
leaving the world
Well,
a better place.
I mean, it's like my mom always taught me is to make everywhere you go better because you were there.
Yeah.
To
And
have that positive impact.
yes. And you do that. You walk the walk on this 100%. I've
Yeah,
seen
I
you.
try.
You do. Just out somewhere,
Try.
there's a piece of trash on the ground. Greg picks it up, throws it in the trash can, that was 5 feet
Yeah.
away or whatever, like 10 feet away, or even
Oh,
on the other
and,
side of whatever. But you help with the dog agility, with like
mhm,
setting up and breaking down and, making sure
mhm,
people have what they need, or maybe the person working it has what they need, water or food, or you're just, like I said at the top of our conversation, an amazing like world citizen. You're very globally thinking of others.
and also, I mean, I think that because my mom instilled that in me so young, I don't even notice. I, you know,
Yeah.
I, I do something and then somebody will point it out. Oh, you picked up somebody else's dog poop. You're picking up somebody's dog poop. It's like, well, yeah. So, I'm not complaining about it. I'm not judging. It's just a reflex.
Right.
And because shoot, I've been out at some of the dog shows and you're out late at night, it's dark. You don't always see that your dog left something.
Yeah.
And so out of kindness, I'm not going to accuse anybody. I'm not going to blame anybody. I'm not looking for validation.
Right. And that's not going to help like the overall
Right.
issue.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, Greg, that kind of behavior has a ripple effect. When
Yeah.
I'm with you and you're doing these things, it makes me want to be more conscious of what I'm doing, you know?
Mhm.
So, and clearly it's not just me, right? It has a
Yeah.
ripple effect. So it's a very beautiful thing.
Yeah. I think that's something that we can all do within our, it's within our power to do those little things. And the little things add up. They really do. And like you said, it does have a ripple effect. So, well, Beth, I want to thank you for allowing us to kind of unpack this trip. And I'm sure we're going to be visiting a lot of these areas that we touched on.
Yeah.
And so thank you for your time and energy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun. Glad we got to
Yeah.
unpack that. And
Yeah.
yes, we will definitely see where you go
Yeah.
with those topics. I can't wait.
And I am Greg Louganis, and this is Greg Louganis is Alive. So please hit like, subscribe, and share. If you find something of value in these podcasts, share it with a friend. Don't miss an episode. Namaste.
Yay Networks.